Hello everybody. As usual, I'm doing my recordings pretty much on Saturday mornings now, or Saturday as I get some tasks done. I may float into the afternoon, but yeah, I'm gonna try to be consistent in getting out some stuff. So primarily now, as you know, like I'm wanting to focus on full albums, at least once a month, and then I go and do a lot of research into those albums, and then I'm going to be doing basically your requests throughout the weeks, and just so compile those into a nice long video that I'm going to do today. So I'm going to just show my gratitude with your requests, and I kind of dig in. I'm going to dig into those requests and take a quick listen. They're mostly. So we're going to move on to the next one. As I said, just did some Chris McGregor, Brotherhood of Breath, 1971. It's fantastic. Great recommendation. So excited. All these recommendations, they start piling up. And when I get through them, it's just amazing what I'm left with, that I would keep on. I'm just amazing tunes, and it's always fun. I always enjoy building and hearing new music that I can, be inspired by and appreciate the creativity, especially when I go in and I look a little bit deeper into the musicians and sort of where they were at the time and the other people that were sort of, what builds up this creativity. It doesn't just happen out of nothing, what's the inspiration behind them, that we could also get inspired by. This one was recommended. I don't remember what video, but I remember you said, I don't know if you do this type of music. Maybe this is a little bit outside the box. Maybe, I don't want to give you something really this outlandish. And you recommended, and I said, I don't think there's anything really outside the box that I won't listen to, at least a little bit. And I listened to it, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic, as you said. So I'm bringing it back now for my top of the request. So I do a half a dozen. I'm not going to do every request I get, but I'm certainly going to listen to everything. And then once a month, as I'm doing now, I'm going to give you some of the ones that really stood out to me and that I really liked, and I'm going to give it back to you. So Erica H. Lander 3489, you said, hey, Jan Johansson, how do you pronounce it? Jan, maybe in Sweden. Jan Johansson did a song. It was very popular. It was one of the biggest albums in Sweden at the time, 1964, I believe. He put out Jazz på svenska. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. But anyway, he said, oh, you should, if you don't mind, listen to that album. And it was huge, which Jazz på svenska translates to jazz in Swedish. Album by Swedish jazz pianist Jan Johansson. It was issued in 1964. Okay, so we have Jan Johansson on piano and arrangements and George Rydell on double bass. And so I listened to just a little smattering of it, but I was like, okay, this sounds really different. And since I like being given music from out of the way places. So we did Chris's Brotherhood of Breath, which originally out of South Africa, mixed with some London musicians. And so I heard it anyway, and I was just like, okay, absolutely, I'm going to play this because it sounds amazing. So I'm not sure how much I found it in a full version without stops, without tracks, and then I found it once with actual tracks. So I don't know. I'm just going to play it, the first couple tracks, because I didn't listen to, I don't know if it's divided up into 18, but I'm going to just do basically the beginning couple songs. So here we go with Jan Johansson. I think you're going to like it. This is really, really good piano here. Okay, that's the first song, which I think I said was held a lot of distinct renown in Swedish society, from this song from Utanmyra. Translated yet from that, from Visa Fran Utanmyra to means song from Utanmyra, I think, translated. So these were apparently a lot of the ideas basically from this album were taken from Swedish traditional folk songs. So it says, all arrangements are very sparse, consisting only of Johansson on piano and George Riedel on double bass. It went on to become the best-selling Swedish jazz album of all time, selling 250,000 copies. I don't know if that's still the case, but basically playing traditional folk tunes but reinventing them with a jazz twist. Restrained, melodic, rhythmic, and atmospheric, and not a saxophone in sight. Jazz perhaps for those who feel lukewarm about wearing a black beret and smoking Guitarists. Anyway, we'll do one more track off of that. We'll keep going with the next track, I think, just to keep the flow going. But Jan Johansson was born on September 16th, 1931 in Söderhamn, Sweden, and began to play piano at age 11. He moved to Gothenburg, Sweden to study electroengineering, met saxophonist Stan Getz while at university, and he abandoned his studies to play jazz full-time and worked with many American jazz musicians, becoming the first European to be invited to join the jazz at the Philharmonic package. He recorded about 20 records between 1961 and 1968. Married in 1957, had 2 sons, Johns and Anders, which apparently have become quite popular in their own right, quite successful musicians. And sadly, it said he passed away in a car accident on November 9th, 1968, at only 37 years old, on the way to a church concert in Jönköping, Sweden. Only 37. But I love this sound. To me, it's funny. It ended with he was on his way to a church concert, because this sounds to me like something I would prefer to hear in a church on any day. I don't attend church generally or regularly, but if I do go, I like to hear good music, preferably. That's probably only reason I would necessarily go to church is to hear. I mean, sometimes I'd like to hear good speaking, a good speech, some good rhetoric, I guess. But with or without that, I would definitely take some good music. So if there was somebody playing piano like this with just bass, I would sit there for a couple hours, I'm sure, and listen to it. And it's just it sounds very, I love it that it's based on sort of folk tunes, but he doesn't reinvent it. I'm sure at the time this felt like a huge reinvention. I'm curious if there was any backlash to, putting a jazz twist, or if the country at that time was very open to this style. I'm sure it was popular, but I'm sure there was a lot of generally older people, the older generation, that maybe didn't take to it as much. But I'm curious about that. But I think he was pretty, it was, as I say, restrained. He added, some blue notes here and there, some sort of blues flourishes, and definitely but it felt, just tasteful, like just everything. He kind of moves around it, and it feels brand new. He's not just like sitting in this sort of pocket of jazz, and just sort of rehashing the melodies, over and over again. It seems like he's inventing it as he goes along. It feels like 4 minutes of just invention. And in that sense, it's fabulous. It's wonderful to hear just that sort of, kind of like stepping in the river and letting the water kind of go past you, and you just sort of stay in this sort of state of flow. But it feels different because everything's moving around you, The bass player obviously sets this foundation, also. He's fantastic. I was trying to think, like, who's keeping this together? Is it the piano or the bass? And that's one of the strengths of the bass, is that sometimes they create the backdrop where the piano, he can pause. He doesn't have to do anything necessarily. He can just kind of go at his whims as he pleases, and as long as he stays, and stays true to himself, it's going to be good. It's going to speak the truth. I love his tone. Obviously, the ambiance of the production sounds amazing. Sometimes it's crazy because the chords he's playing, when he's sometimes playing with his left hand, it feels kind of muted compared to what his right hand is doing. So I'm not sure how they mic'd it to sort of have this. It almost sounded like it was two different, either overdubbed or something, like he was doing this, and they had that sort of tone built in, and then they brought in this sort of brighter piano where he could do this. So I'm not sure how they made sure that was there, or if that's normally how he just has the ability to play it live in that fashion, But yeah, it sounded awesome to hear this sort of subtle, his sort of rhythm chords playing down there, sort of flat sounding, and then his right hand was like just vibrant and crisp, and you could hear the wood crackle in the piano keys. And then where I don't know where they recorded it, but yeah, the obviously the reverb and the natural sound of the room, makes a big impact on the music. The room itself has it's at least 50% or more of the sound you're hearing ultimately, because it's sort of reverberating those tones, and letting them sort of linger and mix in with the new sounds that are coming in. So yeah, it sounds amazing. Obviously, the piano sounds amazing. His technique sounds fantastic, and the material, it just sounds brand new. Even in whether 64, 74, or 84, it just sounds, when you're playing something that is simple and true and it's timeless. And I love stuff that takes on older melodies, and sort of tries to breathe in new life to them. That's something I feel like needs to be a constant, in music. Sometimes is, breathing new life. And sometimes it feels like you're beating a dead horse, or sometimes it feels like you're actually creating something new. So it just depends on the listener, I suppose. But yeah, sorry, I was going to go on to the next one. Let's do that. So yeah, I appreciate you recommending this, and let's continue on to the next song real quick. Interesting. Yeah, that's really cool. Obviously a little bit more bass got to kind of flourish a little bit as an equal part of the what was happening there. Yeah. So yeah, that one it's a different feel. Kind of just on one chord change to another and back. But yeah, this is, I don't know. It's one of us to hear these little interludes. There's little 2 minute, 4 minute passages, ideas. Yeah, it's really fun, and obviously you kind of visualize a little bit like that one just because of its tempo and everything. It kind of reminded me of like riding a sled through the countryside or something like that, or just something playful and bouncy. But yeah, I love his playing, and the bass player. Yeah, it was really cool on that one. I loved hearing the bass have this sort of little fun flourish, and I love the sound of the bass, especially when they do that slide, and when you're really hearing that string resonance, come out a little bit more, come out more to the back end there. So yeah, I feel like I appreciate it, this recommendation, Erica H. Lander. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for sending this my way. And yeah, in the future, don't be discouraged or don't think I won't listen to it. Obviously, I will listen to anything from any country, and if it just I'd be happy to have to hear it, and be even happier to share it back to the rest of YouTube, as it were, whoever that is, But yeah, this came out a while ago, so I feel like I love reaching into these sort of hidden places and then putting it back out there and say, even if it reaches 10 more people that never heard any Swedish jazz, or heard Johansson, all the better. That's there's always new music coming out. They get they're having their struggles, and they're due to be heard as well. But I feel like music is, to me, it's not a time and place. I feel like music is always room to bring out new music for people, whether it happened 30 years ago or 100 years ago. It still has its place to be heard forever, if it's suitable to do that, So, as you said, this was popular, but I feel like it even serves, it was popular in Sweden, and obviously didn't make it around the world in all the way. So, but it's fantastic to listen to. I'm definitely going to listen. I want to listen to the rest of the album, all the pieces themselves, because and I love the style too. They're based on sort of these, fantastic melodies, whether they're from Sweden or whatever country. I love the melodies, and I love to hear that sort of. You can hear that these are foundational melodies, from a place, and it's great to hear that, and sort of brought new to life to that. So yeah, awesome. I hope you guys listen to this. I hope you guys reach out and give me more recommendations. I hope some of you reach out and be like, oh, I never heard this. You know what? I'm going to go listen to more, because it's really interesting, and I'm going to share it with my friends that plays piano or any other musician. So, I'm just a cog in the wheel, and just want to move stuff through me. I'm just a medium, as they say, I get stuff out of it, and I just want everyone to get some stuff out of it as well. So I appreciate you doing the recommendation, and happy to give this back and show you that I listened to it. I play it here, and I appreciate it so much. He's had some. I listened to a little bit of another album he put out where there was drums on it, and also sounded great. So I know there's going to be a lot more that I'm going to dig into him from here and there. Because I do love the sparseness of it. I love hearing just a few players, sort of fill up a sound, fill a space, with without too much going on. I love hearing just that. I can hear the bass and the interaction with just a few members. It's really special. So I appreciate it. And that's it. And we're going to move on to the next one. We're halfway through. We got a few more to go. We'll see you on the next one. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.